We are in the final week of the Olympics, and athletes face a lot of pressure both during and before the games. Joining me this morning is Dr. Breigh Jones-Coplin, professor and sports psychologist. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah,
we can't stop talking about this.
I know, we have a good thing going.
It's fascinating, it really is. So what helps athletes during the games?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the athlete, but I think, I tell people a lot of this work and groundwork needs to be laid way before the Olympic Games. I think sometimes people make the team and they're like, okay, give me all of these mental skills. Ideally, working with a sports psychologist or a mental health professional like months, even years before, so that you have a routine going into the Olympics is nice. But if you don't, right, I always tell people it's all about getting out of your head and into your body. So if you're an Olympic athlete, you know how to do whatever your Olympic domain is. But sometimes the pressure can get so intense where you overthink. And that's where we see the twisties. That's where we see people choke.
Yes.
And so it's really about trusting your body to do what you've put so many hours into training to do. And then, just trusting yourself. But there's so much that gets in the way of being able to trust your body in the moment for those athletes.
I think you bring up such a good point, because this is a foundation that you have to lay way before you're going to the games, which we saw with Simone Biles, right?
Yes.
Like we saw her giving herself positive affirmations right before. Clearly she's been working with someone, because she's the one that kind of changed the mental health conversation with the last Olympics as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think what Simone Biles represented for athletes, for mental health, is just, it's okay for you to take a break. Your mental health and your performance are very highly correlated. If you take care of your mental health, it's inevitable that you're gonna increase your performance. And just the importance of what that looks like. Sometimes it's a huge sacrifice. You can't have it all right in the moment. And that priority is so, it's so dire in the moment, especially when your life depends on it. It's your mental health,
What can hurt an athlete, especially right now while they're in the games? I have a feeling that these have something to do with it, right?
Absolutely, and that holds so much weight. So when we talk about the importance of getting out of your head into your body, so anything that can take you out of your body, right, it's focusing on the distractions around you, social media, fans, family, right? Family wants to be so helpful, but they can take you out of the moment a little bit. Doing things differently, right? So you have this added pressure of being in the Olympics, so you're like, okay, well, let me, go to the massage therapist 3 times today, because I just really feel like I'm not trusting myself. And so going against the grain of what you're used to, and then also, not focusing on what you need to focus on in the moment, which is that performance.
Yeah, I'm sure that phones and social media and all of that gets in the way.
Absolutely.
What about some of these Olympians who turn into overnight stars? How do they deal with that?
I know, and we look at that, we glamorize that experience, right? Of oh, we're so happy for them. And some of those are success stories, but also the transition can be very, very hard. Some of the athletes that become overnight sensations or either get sponsored after a really great performance, they talk about how now they have attachments to their performance, which is another added pressure. It's something that you have to really get used to and transition into, right? Of now I have all of these people who know me and they know my personal life now, they know my family. And so you can feel like you are under a microscope. And remember, going back to what you're focusing on in the moment, does that add so many more distractions to where you can't continue your successful performances, or does that, motivate you? It really depends on the athlete, and it depends on the amount of resources and support that they have to transition into that new fame adequately.
Yeah, I can't imagine how hard that is, especially if you have events after the thing that made you instantly famous. You got to push that aside and keep competing. We have just a few more seconds, but I do want to ask you a little bit about this. What about the athletes who trained and trained and trained for years and didn't make it? How do they deal with that?
Yeah, I just want to create space for that, right? And we're seeing it in the Olympics. So we're talking about before, what's helpful during, but also we cannot forget about these athletes post-Olympics and the ones that did not make it to the Olympic arena. And just remembering that these are human beings that they've trained for ample amount of years to be able to make it to this stage, or to prepare to make it to this stage. And that can be very devastating, especially with Olympic and pro athletes. Their athlete identity is so tied to who they are as a person. So it could feel like, this existential crisis sometimes of who am I? What is my worth? What is my purpose? Especially those athletes who didn't make it, who maybe aren't going to be looking towards LA 2028. So just having a lot of empathy and sympathy and making sure we're like reaching out to those athletes and not forgetting about them.
Big time. I'm glad we brought that up. Dr.
Yeah.
Coplin, thank you so much for coming in. Always great talking with you.
Likewise.
Really appreciate it.